On August 4, 2016, angry opponents of Public Act 436, Michigan's emergency manager law, descended upon the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals to hear their attorneys' arguments to a Bush-appointed three-judge panel.
Every one of these judges who was on this panel were appointed by a Bush.
Yeah.
And we know the ideology behind their mindset.
Right.
And you got to feel for that from the questions that they asked and the answers that they, and how they cut Herb off when he raised the real issues that are before them. So it's the President of the United States who appoints these judges.
Right. And your presence here today is evidence that we are prepared to take this issue to the streets.
We interviewed Pontiac City Councilman Kermit Williams and Detroit School Board members Tawana Simpson and Elena Harada regarding the effects emergency management has had on democracy and home rule in the cities of Pontiac and Detroit.
Tell me your names and you're on the Detroit School Board and how the emergency management laws affect the Detroit School Board.
My name is Tawana Simpson, member of the Detroit Board of Education, represent the 1st District, and emergency management is horrible. What I heard in court was just despicable. All the lies that were told, the people do not have an opportunity to voice their opinion through their elected official with emergency management. As a matter of fact, as being a school board member, we did not have the opportunity to choose to be under emergency management. We were grandfathered in, and not only were we grandfathered in, every 17 months and 29 days, we received a new emergency management. Therefore, we never had the opportunity to have a review process or to ask to come from up under emergency management.
So there's no petition to opt out as was stated in the
That's a lie. It didn't apply to Detroit.
It didn't apply to Detroit Public Schools.
That's why they use the term grandfathered for us.
And what about the petitioning the emergency manager?
We did that.
We did
every single thing under Section 436, Provision 19. We went to the Emergency Loan Review Board every single time we opposed what they did. The people should know that we have not supported closing our schools, giving away the teachers' money. We have not supported giving away land to billionaires. We have not supported taking 15 schools out of the Detroit Public Schools and giving them to the Educational Achievement Authority, which is separate and unequal. We have fought every bit of that. We've taken every single bit of it to the Emergency Loan Review Board, but they have no authority.
And we had nothing to do with losing $30 million of the Detroit Public School teachers' pensions.
And now the governor is trying to appeal the court's decision to give them their money back. All of our money is spent against us.
So what about this new school board that's being created?
We're running for that board because we are not going to keep our eye. We're going to keep our eye on our schools. We're going to demand an audit, and no matter what they call those schools, no matter what they do, we're going to follow our money and get our schools back.
And make sure that the students of Detroit Public Schools get a quality education. Because you must also understand there was a ruling from a court that says that the governor is not responsible for providing a quality education, only an educational system. And
that talk to that to court.
And if that's so, we're going to make sure that we're going to be a part of whatever system we have to be a part of to make sure our students get a quality education and follow the money.
And that was the Supreme Court decision. State
Supreme Court decision. Yes.
Right.
But it's very important. Our platform as school board members running for office, our platform is this. What do we want? We want exactly the same things as the white districts in Michigan get. That's our platform.
All right. Thank you. All right, just state your name.
Councilman Kermit Williams, KER, MIT.
And what brings you out?
What brings me out here is I'm a plaintiff on this actual lawsuit here. Our city has been completely taken over. 90% of our government has been privatized. We went from almost 800 employees at one time to less than 50 now, and that's including the courthouse. Everything from our water treatment plant has been sold. Our Silverdome, which was built for $55 million, was sold for $583,000. Our golf court was sold. Our police department, fire department, all outsourced. So everything that used to be Pontiac has been taken away through emergency management without a vote of the people. No one man should have all that power, and that's what they've done with creating dictators through this emergency manager law. We worked on PA4. The people in the state of Michigan said they do not want a dictatorship, yet still the legislature decided to tie appropriations to a new bill that gave emergency management free reign in the state of Michigan. And so I'm here to hope that democracy comes back and is restored to to our state and to our people in Pontiac.
What do you say to the argument that elected officials have the right to petition the emergency manager?
We don't have any right to petition. I have letters from an emergency manager telling me to cease and desist for statements I made at a council meeting. He told me that if I did not retract my statements or talk, he would bring me to court. And so that's what we've been dealing with. We worked 2 years on city council with no pay, no staff, no anything. And so all of the argument about it doesn't affect your voice or your right. I have represented people for 4 years without having any ability to make any laws. At one time, we were only able to open and close a city council meeting and do nothing else with no agenda items, while the emergency manager made all those decisions, signed as a legislator and as an administrator. Never heard of in history. We don't have kings here in America, but they created them.
The 22 plaintiffs in the case, Phillips et al. Versus Snyder, are asking the court to find the law broadly unconstitutional.
Today we have argued before the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals that Public Act 436 is unconstitutional, that it violates the due process rights of citizens of Michigan, it violates the First Amendment rights of citizens of Michigan, and it also violates the voting rights of citizens of Michigan. So we put forth that argument. We believe that we made a strong and competent argument, and we are prayerfully optimistic that the court will see likewise.
Okay. The recent spate of voting rights victories, how does that play into this particular case?
Well, I believe it shows that there's a heightened consciousness by the citizens in America and by some courts as it relates to the voting rights of minorities. And hopefully the court will be conscious of that in rendering a decision as it relates to this case.
The argument that the elected officials under emergency management have the right to petition the emergency manager.
Well, clearly that is a false proposition. Emergency managers in many instances have simply removed elected officials. And to the extent an elected official does have a right to petition an emergency manager, we argue that elected officials lose their right to legislate. And that right is given to emergency managers. They assume the executive branch as well as the legislative branch of government, which is clearly a violation of the separation of powers under our Constitution.
Okay. Now, it was mentioned that the argument for racial discrimination or had been dismissed without prejudice.
Correct.
What did that mean?
Correct. Well, what that meant was, in order for us to get all of these other issues before the Court of Appeals, we had to dismiss that count without prejudice. We will bring that count back. Hopefully we'll bring it back with others that we have argued before the court today. Hopefully we will win on voting rights and First Amendment and due process. And we will only have to have one trial as it relates to emergency management, inclusive of the 14th Amendment and all of these other issues. We were trying to prevent having two trials, a trial on 14th Amendment and then going to the Court of Appeals, winning Voting Rights Act or First Amendment or due process and having a subsequent trial. We only want to try this case one time.
All right.
Since our initial interview, the three-judge panel ruled in favor of the state of Michigan's argument that the citizens of the state of Michigan do not have right to local representation. They also ruled that there was no racial bias found in the state's application of the emergency manager law. Since our initial interviews, the three-judge panel ruled in support of the state of Michigan's argument that citizens of Michigan do not have right to local representation. They also ruled that there was no racial bias found in the state's application of the emergency manager law.